Okay, so the topic what I have chosen for today's presentation is use of machine learning algorithms for manufacturing process, and I'll be just giving you a glimpse in the implementation in weld quality monitor. So since the title of the today's program covers advances in composite materials, manufacturing processes and optimization techniques, I thought to give an idea in advances in manufacturing process. So as you can see, this machine learning, whenever it is involved, it can be connected, or you will have in your mind the terms like artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, data science, etc. So first I will tell you that how these terms are connected. So in the year 1950s onwards, you can see the terminology artificial intelligence came into the thought process. That is engineering of making intelligent machines and programs. That is, we are at that time we were converting from our conventional machines to NC and CNC machines and thereof. Then the next part we have the machine learning. Machine learning is nothing but ability to learn without being explicitly programmed. That is, you have first learned the machine that for a known environment how to react. Okay, how to react for a given condition, what should be the cause, or for a cause what should be the remedy it has to taken. That's the way, if the machine has ability to learn without being explicitly programmed, that is called machine learning. Now from the machine learning, it has been moved to the newer topic called deep learning. So deep learning is a concept where basically neural networks, so deep neural networks are came into the picture. And you might have heard about the terminology called Google cars, the driverless cars. So that in that all the algorithm which are normally tested is a CNN, convolutional neural network algorithm, that is basically a part of deep learning algorithm. So broadly, if I want to put everything into the picture, you can see all this are basically the part of data science. Not AI is alone in the part of data science. Many things are there in the part of data science. You have forecasting techniques, you have other predicting techniques, etc. That all are part of the data science. Among the data science, one of the tool which is used is called artificial intelligence. And machine learning is one subset of artificial intelligence, and deep learning again is a subset of machine learning algorithms. There are differences there for these machine learning and deep learning that I'll show you in the next slides. So you can see as the world is moving from industry 1.0 to industry 4.0, but latest literatures or latest internet sources is saying that we are moving to industry 5.0. So in 1.0, we thought about mechanization, introduction of steam and water power. Second revolution, we thought about mass production, assembly lines using electrical power. As the figure indicates, you can see the presence of your the hoist chains or the kinds of your overhead cranes, etc. That is a part of industry 2.0. Then in the 3.0, we have automated production computers, we have AGVs, we have CNCs. So all these things are a part of industry 3.0 or 3.0. And industry 4.0, we talk about the concepts of smart factory, autonomous system, IoT, machine learning, etc. In industry 5.0, it is little more different. That is, machine will interact to machines, the nearby machines, and it will communicate and it will do the process. The human interventions are getting minimized in each and every stages as we are moving forward. So you can see the machine learning, it can be used for predictive maintenance, it can be used for inventory optimization, automation, quality control, AI, data mining, and demand forecasting. For all this, machine learning can be used. So some examples I have given: cost reduction through predictive maintenance. Okay, so if I have a predictive maintenance system, I can reduce the cost that is normally incurred to the breakdown situations, and predicting remaining useful life. This is also important in the case of mechanical manufacturing scenario, as the tool life in the case of tools. If we are able to predict it without removing the tool from the tool post, without removing the job from its work holding device. If we are able to say that this much remaining life is there for your tool based on certain other informations what we are gathering, so that is also a good and helpful area in the case of mechanical engineers. Improved supply chain management, improved quality control, improved human robot, consumer focused manufacturing. In all these areas, the artificial intelligence, especially the machine learning, has a part. So what is this machine learning is, or what are the types of machine learning is? So basically there are 4 types of machine learning is. One is called supervised learning. The next is called unsupervised learning. The third is called semi-supervised learning. And the fourth is called reinforcement learning. So in simple ways, if I want to express this thing, supervised learning. So basically, if we want to learn a system, we should have some information called as data are required. Data with respect to condition. Okay. So these are the conditions. So I have given you previously one example of tool. So tool, if it is a good tool, what will be my signals will be, or what will be my data will be. The tool is half worn out. If it is half worn out, how the situation will be, how my signal will looks like. Okay, so in that, if you have a target variable is available, either a continuous or a categorical target variable is available, you are able to get the various class information, and this class information you are able to learn the system initially and then test it. So there will be 2 parts will be there in coming in the machine learning aspects. One is called training and next is called testing. So for training, you have all the information or all the data are available with you, and using that you are learning the system. Okay, you are initially learning the system, then testing it for the unknown conditions. So that is the basic category called as supervised learning. So machine learning algorithms normally employed for condition monitoring applications will falls into the first category of supervised learning. In the unsupervised learning, these sets of classified features will not be available. So rather than that falls into the particular categories called clustering, etc. So there are certain algorithms are there that will basically try to cluster your group, okay, the cluster your data sets, okay, against some certain conditions. So that is called unsupervised algorithm. The third is semi-supervised algorithm. So semi-supervised algorithm or semi-supervised learning is something like that. It is a blend of supervised learning and unsupervised learning. That is, some set of categorical data is available with you and some set of non-categorical data are there with you. For some conditions, you know what the cause, what the effect is. In some cases, you don't know it. So likewise, if the data set is a mix of both, that is called semi-supervised learning. And reinforcement learning, there is no condition at all. The machine will identify and self-evolve its situations. Okay, that is, you give the data, you give all the data sets to the machine itself will try to categorize it to the condition. That is called reinforcement learning. So basically, the driverless car projects, that all are part of reinforcement learning. So this is the base of the machine learning. So you can have supervised, unsupervised, semi-supervised, and reinforcement learning. And if we talk about the machine learning, there are plenty of algorithms are available. So to choose one for a particular problem, okay, or from a group, which one to choose. And there are plenty of ways for you to solve. You will have MATLAB, you will have open source softwares are available. You can code it by using Python. You can code it by using C or other programming languages. Okay, so whatever the medium which you are choosing, according to that condition also the algorithm ways are working. See, for example, you can see there is a terminology marked here called decision tree. So this is one of the most common algorithm which is used in the machine learning algorithm. where you can able to interpret your output easily in the form of a tree structure. So you can see there are algorithms like classification and regression tree. It is called CART algorithm. You have ID3 algorithm, C4.5 algorithm, etc. So this CART algorithm, normally in the case of MATLAB decision trees are built based on this classification and regression trees. There is an open source software is there that is called Weka. Okay, so if I move to Weka, C4.5 is the common algorithm which is used in the case of Weka. So based on the condition, you will have Bayesian, you will have instance-based clustering. This is what I call the clustering. This is the case of unsupervised learning. So K means means it is actually calculating the Euclidean weighted distance from a one data point to the another. So nearby data point, so that will try to cluster together. That it will give you a combination that this goes to a particular class like that. If data belongs to like this, it goes to the particular class. So clustering. Then you will have neural networks. You have deep learning, you will have ensemble, rule-based system, regression, then you will have support vector machines, SVM, etc. And ensemble is a little bit, it's a newly more developed algorithms, this ensemble. So ensemble means it is a mix of two algorithms. Okay, so it will have tree plus SVM, it can have tree plus other algorithm. That's the way the ensemble will work. So normally there are two conditions are there. One is called bagging and next is called boosting. So for bag or to make your data more accurate or to predict your make your prediction more accurate, we will go for these kinds of ensemble algorithms. So bagging and boosting are the two normal issues where you can see in the case of machine learning environment. So in order to overcome that, we will normally go for ensemble algorithms. So bagging tree, boost tree, okay, random forest, AdaBoost. So these all are some kind of algorithms which you can see under ensemble. This is only a partial list. Many other algorithms are also available for your machine learning applications. Okay. Now, what is the I'll move into the welding part. So what is the application of machine learning in welding? So at present, what is happening in the industries and all is that we will set the welding parameters, we will perform the weld. Once the weld is performed, okay, we will send it for NDT operations. So in the NDT operations, okay, you can say that there is no defect, the weld is accepted. There is a defect is there in the weld. If it is not in the acceptable range, you have to reject the weld. Okay, so reject the weld means it will again go for repair welding operations. So basically, this repair welding is something like that. It actually costs 200% high than that of a normal welding. Okay, that is you have to locate the place where the defects are there. That area you have to cut, you have to grind it, you have to cut it. Okay, again the grooves, everything you have to make, and you have to weld it. So the cost, the industrial people normally will say that the cost for these kinds of or repair welding, that is basically 200% higher than that of the normal welding cost. So what machine learning can do? So you have a welding setup. Okay, when the weld is taking place, sensors will be associated to the welding system that will take the information from the welding, that will be processed on a computer. Okay, and you have already developed machine learning models are available. So that will compare the present information with the already stored information, and it will make to a conclusion that yes, there is a defect in the weld, or no, the weld is going in a good manner. And normally up to that making the decision. So up to decision that there is a defect in the weld, or it's a good weld. So up to that part, the machine learning will get over. Rest, even at some point in the decision, there is a defect in the weld. So it can indicate that there is a defect in the weld. So a welder can stop the welding. He can save his time and the material. The later material wastage also can be minimized. Or in the case of modern some systems, what they will do is that the decision there is a defect in the weld. So it will pass to the control system to that. Please adjust your current or voltage or wire feed rate or standoff distance, etc. It will try to adjust and compensate it and try to get a good weld. So this is what is the application of basically the machine learning in welding. Is this limited to welding? No, it is not limited to welding. Any manufacturing process, whatever you are selecting, has got its own implementation. That is, suppose if you are talking about the machining, say in the case of turning or milling operation, the tool wear, the surface roughness, whatever is going to come. So that you can able to predict. You can able to predict the tool wear. You can able to predict the surface roughness with the help of appropriate sensors, whatever you are fixing on the machine. I can give you another example, grinding wheel. So grinding wheel, as you are probably using it, what happens is that the smoothness of the roughness of the wheel will go off and the wheel becomes smoother. So you have to dress in that point. So without removing the wheel from that location, if you are able to just say the condition that the wheel is completely smoothened. Okay. So if you are able to put some appropriate sensor on the machine, get its feedback, okay, get the information from that, and if you are able to develop such systems, that is also well and good for the manufacturing conditions. So many such conditions are there. Many such machines are also available. So there is a high-speed machining center came from Japan. So that is from Zodiac. It's from Zodiac company. So there is a laser interferometry is already available in that machine. After each and every pass of operation, the laser will check the tool tip and it will calculate that any tool wear has happened or not. If tool wear has happened, automatically it will provide some compensation to reduce or to get a better surface on your machine part. Now, what is meant by this term? What is or how this is done in the case of welding? We'll see in detail. So welding, you can employ the various sensors. You can employ the various sensors in the case of welding. So the any sensors, whatever is shown over here, listed over here, any one or together, you can keep it on the machines. So current, voltage, spectroscopy, microphone, piezoelectric, infrared, or vision sensors you can keep on your welding machine. Okay, welding machine or on the welding environment, depends on what sensor you are choosing, and you will get some output from the sensor. So that output from the sensor we call normally as signature. Okay, signature of that particular welding process or signature of that particular sensor. And this signature will be taken and you will be performing signal processing. So normally the signal processing is that from the signal directly you may not be able to correlate or you may not be able to differentiate anything. So to differentiate it or to correlate with to something, you need to process the signal. So normal processing you will be performing in any of the literatures or in any of the operations related to machine learning. You can see that they will be performing either in time series, that is amplitude analysis, or you will be performing a frequency domain analysis with the help of fast Fourier transforms, FFT, that is the Fourier analysis here. And the third one we call it as time frequency domain analysis. So that is normally done with the help of an analysis called wavelet analysis. So you can see you can process the signal, and once the signal is processed, you are extracting the features of the signal either in time domain or in frequency domain or in time frequency domain, and you will have conditions with respect to what condition that particular data you have observed, and that you are feeding it into the machine learning classifiers. Okay, so time series, linear discriminant analysis, fuzzy clustering approaches, neural nets, Gaussian mixture models, many other. These things you might not have seen in my first slide. So these are again some another sets of algorithms which also again used for your machine learning approaches. And this machine learning will classify, first it will learn its own. Okay, first it will learn its own, then it will try to take a new data set and it will try to fit using the present information what it is matching, and it will give you the conditions that whether the weld is good or whether the weld is with defects. So defects, again, if you can distinguish the defects, further defects like burn through, spatter, etc. in the case of weld. So if you have the signatures for that, then the further sub classification in the defect you are able to generate. And if you know how to compensate it, you can develop your own control systems and you can feed it back to the machines. But that is a little bit challenging task, because in the modern power sources and all, that portion you will not get. But you can predict, and you can say that a particular defect is available. With that, you can able to stop your work. Even that is very useful for the industries. Now we have seen the types of sensors here, current, voltage, etc. We will see one by one what is happening with respect to each and every sensor. So the first type of sensor which is seen in the literature, that is called spectroscopic sensor or spectroscopic analysis. So these all are taken from the literature. So literature reference is also marked on the bottom. So this is a typical reference which is taken for a TIG welding. So I have a TIG torch. Okay, torch and positioning systems are there. Okay, so here you can see an optical fiber sensor is kept. Okay, it kept at inside your welding gun itself. Okay, so from that optical sensor, it is passed to the CCD spectrometer. Control and processing is done, and you can see a change whenever a defect is appearing. You can see a changes are taking place. Using that, you are able to locate the position of the defect in the case of welding. Now, what is basically happening in the spectroscopic analysis is that, okay, there are two conditions. One, there is a stable spectra is there. One, there is an unstable spectra is there. If the welding is happening in a normal pace, you will get a stable spectrum. Okay, there will not be no change at all. You will get a stable spectrum. When there is a change, when there are some abrupt changes are happening in place, this stable spectrum will change into unstable one. I'll just brief it. That is in your alloy, you have different elements are available. If your heat input varies or excess heat input you are providing, certain elements over there will have a lower melting points. So these lower melting point elements, okay, will vaporize faster. When it is vaporizing faster, you are not getting a stable spectrum. Okay, the spectrum will change into an unstable one. So by taking that into aspect, by taking that information, you can able to correct your heat input in your welding. The another one which is there in the spectroscopic is that you can measure the radiation emitted by the plasma, or you can measure the plasma electronic temperature. Okay, plasma electronic temperature or the radiation emitted by the plasma, you can measure it, and using that you can see to it whether you are getting a stable spectrum or unstable spectrum, and accordingly you can conclude that whether this is a good weld or whether it is a defective weld. So this is one kind of analysis called spectroscopy. The next one, or the next important analysis, that is called acoustic sensing analysis. So acoustic sensing, normally you can able to perform with the help of two kind of sensors. One is with the help of normal microphone. So normal microphone will record the sound always in the audible range. Okay, so audible range you can use a microphone, and for non-audible range you can use the PZT sensor, that is a piezoelectric sensor. So that is when a bonding is breaking, so it releases some energy, some elastic energy, it will be released. So that sounds the PSETI sensor will be capturing. Whereas the audible sound, the microphones will capture. Okay, using the microphone, making a system that will be the most cheaper system that can be developed. But there are some issues are there with the acoustic sensing. That is, when you are recording an audible sound, the environmental sound. So if we are taking in a factory, so nearby some machines will be working, some will be dropping the job on the floor. So these all sounds will be recorded in the microphone. And a better denoising technique you have to develop, or you have to carefully use in the case of microphone types of acoustic sensing system. Or what happens is that finally we call the term as called classification efficiency of algorithms. So that will reduce if you are using the microphone without denoising. Whereas when you are going for PSETI in the case of welding and all, you have to be extremely careful about the temperature range of the corresponding PSETI sensor. Every PSETI sensor, you cannot use it for the welding. So high temperature condition, high temperature application, PSETI sensor, you have to use in the case of welding. Once you got the signal, as you can see on the other types of plots, current signal, microphone, PSETI, you can able to compare with the help of machine learning parts. So I'll come to that part later. So you can see the sensors, many literatures are available in the acoustics. So I'm not going to its detail. So this is one of work which we did it in our welding shop in the year 2015, and you can see with respect to the audio signal and the condition of the weld is shown over here. You can see this seems to be almost a good weld. Okay, it's an SMAW process, so it's a manual weld process. So manual weld process, you can see we are getting the signal in a quite. There is no abrupt changes are not there in the signature. Some abrupt changes are because of the noise, or it is a manual welding. So if the welder, if he changes something, or if he not going in the correct condition, then these kinds of smaller abrupt changes will happen in the case of welding. If it is done with the help, SMAW is not possible, GMAW and all, if it is done with the help of carriage and other systems, these changes you will not be able to observe. So when the condition is changing, you can see it's a lack of fusion. You can see over here, you can see the signal or the signature is changing. Or when I am increasing the power intensity to get burn throughs, etc., you can see the abrupt changes are there in the recordings. So these recordings on a later part, you have to convert, you have to process it, you have to get the features from this, and you can train and test with the help of machine learning algorithms. So the next one kind of sensor that you can see in the case of welding, so that is called infrared sensing. So infrared sensing, so there is nearby in Chennai, we have IGCAR. Okay, there are a lot of research with respect to infrared sensing has done in IGCAR. Okay, so infrared sensing, they are not used for online welding, but they used as a replacement for NDT, the ultrasonic NDTs. So ultrasonic NDT, the drawback, whatever they have told is that up to 3 mm depth, it can be easily tell you that any defect is present or not. Beyond that, if you want to employ the ultrasonic, then you need to have a good operator is required to analyze or interpret the ultrasonic informations. Whereas the infrared, you will have the options, you will have good options are available. So using that, you can able to say that whether any defect is present in the system or not. So basically, infrared sensing, there are you can use with the help of pyrometer, or infrared cameras are available, which consists of many units are there. I'm not going to its detail. So there are two types of sensing is there. One is called active sensing, and next is called passive sensing. So in one kind of sensing, it requires an external heat element to say, or to heat your object, and as to say that any defect is present or not. Where the camera, whatever you are using, it can be of the lower range. maybe somewhere around 80 degrees Celsius to 120, 200 degrees Celsius, like that. And you can heat it in by using various sources. You can keep the heat source in front, you can keep the heat source in back. Likewise, also many literatures are available. I'm not going to that part. The other one, which does not require any external heating, that you can easily use for the case of online monitoring. But when you are employing such cameras to the condition of welding and all, we have to see the temperature rise in the case of welding. So approximately a camera which can measure the ranges up to 1000, 1600, in that range, if you are able to measure, then only we can employ that in the case of online monitoring systems, that infrared cameras. Okay, and the cost of such cameras will be 40 to 45 lakhs. And there will be only two companies that I have seen that manufacturing such cameras. One is FLIR and other is Fluke. Okay, so pyrometer. So these all are literatures. So they measures the temperature by detecting the infrared energy emitted by all materials which are at temperatures are above absolute zero. Okay, so many literatures are available in the case of infrared sensing also. Okay, online monitoring and offline monitoring. IGCAR, if you with respect to the IGCAR, if you search, many papers are available from your nearby institute itself. The another method or another sensing method which is found in the literatures is electrical impedance method. So this is also, you can see here, voltage and current and bonding strength. So these voltage and current and bonding strength you are predicting with the help of electrical impedance. This is nothing but you are matching the resistance. Simple example of electrical impedance is that you are matching. Okay, so the electrical impedance, the use of electrical impedance, you can see in the case of FM, that is you are matching or you are tuning the station where basically you are adjusting the resistance. So that is basically called as the electrical impedance. The same way you can, when a bonding strength is given, you can able to say what voltage and current the experiment has done, or for a voltage and current, so for a particular voltage and current, you will be able to say what bonding strength you will able to get. So in this also plenty of researchers and the plenty of domains has been carried out. So I'll move to the next part. So this is a now I'll move little into the welding part. So using these sensors, in addition to it, you will have current and voltage sensor. To that I'll come later. I'll come now. So welding, we all know that how the welds are classified, etc. What are the common welds which are used? So GMAW is one of the common weld which many industries are using because of its wide advantages. Okay, so from thin sheet to thick plates, you are able to weld with the help of GMAW process. So a typical experimental figure I have shown you, where you can see the current and voltage sensors are also connected. So you have a gas cylinders are there, you have a gas mixing unit is there. Okay, power source is there. So this is a robotic welding torch, and you can see the current is tapped and this is voltage is also tapped in between. And when we talk about the current sensor, the normal current sensor which is used for the case of welding, that is works on the principle of Hall effect. Hall effect current sensors are normally employed in the case of welding. And there are two types of sensors will be there. One is intensive type and next is non-intensive type. So non-intensive type sensors will not disturb your input supply and voltage to a particular machine. That is, it doesn't require an energy from the line which is being connected. So without disturbing your system, non-intrusive sensors will capture your data perfectly. So this is a typical experimental setup of robotic welding, which is available in BHEL Trichy. And this gas mixing unit and all, they have their own patents, and there is a mixing unit they have developed that is called gas alternator. So this is a typical setup that is available in VHDL Trichy, and this is how you are fixing your current and voltage sensor. So voltage is tapped between your torch and your workpiece. Okay, wire feed, you can record it. Current with the from the Hall effect sensor it is taking. So these are the ways in which the current and voltage sensor is employed. And in the case of GMAW, there are many metal transfer modes are available. And for each and every metal transfer modes, the current voltage signatures are going to change. So the common metal transfer mode is nothing but the detachment of your droplet from the tip of your electrode and attaching that into your molten well puddle. So basically the basic one that is called the short circuiting transfer. You can see the small video over here where the droplet is being detached and it is attaching to the well puddle. You can see in the case of short circuiting, the droplet is basically shorting. It is basically touching the ground. That's why we are using the term called short circuiting. And you can see when the shorting is taking place, you can see the condition of the current and voltage. So with respect to the figure also it is shown over here. So you can see the typical signature of current and voltage in the case of short circuiting transfer. So when it is touching to the ground, you can see shorting takes place. Voltage is going to the zero condition. Voltage is going to zero. And then you can see the slowly it is rising as the next arcing or the next cycle is taking place. So with respect to segment, okay, with respect to the total cycle, however you want to study with the help of current and voltage, it is easy. So that is why normally in many of the literatures, the recent literatures, they will be working with the help of current and voltage transfer. Here the short circuit transfer application is that it is a low heat input process. So the application is limited to thin sheets. So if you want to go for thicker sheets, this is one of the application. This is one of the process called globular metal transfer, in which you can see the droplet size is larger. So it is called globules. So it is larger than the size of your electrode, and it is being detached and attached into the molten well puddle. So with respect to your short circuit, the globular signature will be entirely different. Here the heat input is higher, okay, than compared to the short circuit transfer. So for extremely higher thickness materials and all, you have to go for the metal transfer mode called as spray transfer, where you can see the droplet size, is not higher of your electrode size, and much more quantity. The amount of the droplet transfer is higher. So if higher amount of droplet has to be transferred, it requires more amount of heat input on your electrode area. And because of this reason, the spray transfer cannot be used for thin sheets welding. Okay, so the various stages are shown over here. This is a high-speed photographic image, or only you are seeing over here. So if for a spray transfer, if you want to make it useful from thicker to thinner sheets, what we will do? So that has been introduced with the help of next modification in the metal transfer mode. So that is called pulsed spray transfer. Okay, so pulsed spray transfer, you can see the A, whatever is marked over here, that is called your base current. C, whatever you have marked over here, that is called peak current. B is called shoulder current. Between A and C, your current and voltage is cycled to ensure that this process can be used to weld any kind of thin sheets to thick plates. And what I shown you earlier with respect to the short circuit also, we can see droplet formation. Okay, droplet formation is taking place at stage 1. 2, the droplet growth is taking place. 3, the necking is taking place. You can see this is a ramping current. Okay, so due to the ramping current, the necking is taking place, and finally the droplet is detaching is taking place, and this cycle continues. And this cycle with a background current and with a peak current, it will be repeated without any issues if there is no arc disturbances are present. If any arc disturbances are present, these signatures of current and voltage is going to vary. So arc disturbances are nothing but the presence of defect. In the case of welding, this arc will be disturbed. So this is something like that. I told you stable spectra and all. Here also this is periodically varying. Whereas when a defect occurs, either the base or the shoulder or the peak, there is variations are going to happen. And if you carefully initially experiment it, you can able to get those signatures, you can train a system, and you can develop your own machine learning models for your own welding machines. So typical, I'll just run this video too. So you can see this is a 5 microsecond video with a frame rate of 5610 frames per second. So you can see it is finer spray. It is finer, thinner than compared to the spray transfer, which makes it a suitable candidate for any kind of thin to thick plates. So this is one advantage that has happened in the case of GMAW. Apart from this, many other kinds of power sources are also available in the case of GMAW. Once after 2 or 3 slides, I'll show you. So this is what when we have experimented in BHEL, we got the conditions. So this is a robotic welding. So robot is KUKA KR16 robo, and power source is Fronius power source. So using that as experimented, you can see this is a root pass weld is shown over here. Corresponding X-ray of it is also shown here, and the corresponding current and voltage record is also shown over here. So for reading all this, we have developed our own codes by using VBs and Excel. These are plots we are obtained by using our own systems. And these all things are already published. Published literatures are available. Okay. The next kind of there is a defect which we carefully generated, that is burn through. Okay. So you can see here one burn through occurs. After a certain distance, another burn through occurs. After a certain distance, another burn through as occurs. So you can see over here initially and all the current and voltage, there is no change. And whenever it is occurring, that defect is occurring, you can see the changes, whatever is happening in the signature. Okay, the signature in this part from 14.63 onwards, if you carefully observe, you can see to that there are disturbances are happening when the defect is generating. You can see the corresponding X-ray image is also shown over there to verify our findings. We have done that. You can again see that after passing the defect, again the arc has re-established back into its original position. That is, whenever it is encountering a defect, then only the signatures are going to change. So those changes, if you are studying with the help of machine learning, we can able to develop an online monitoring systems easily. So you can see when I apply the grease, the resultant will have porosity. And this is a compressor. From the output from the compressor, we have passed on the weld area. So what happens is that the shielding has not been proper. As a result, also the porosity has happened. You can see to it the porosity obtained by the application of grease will not be same as that of shielding gas is disturbed, and will not be the same condition as the correct proportionate of the shielding gas if it is not given. Okay, so you can see the various conditions that are happening, and the corresponding signatures are also shown over here. This is with respect to grease. This is with respect to beaming of air. This is with respect to shielding gas cutoff. Okay, so you can see from both the sides of the well how or what difference is making. So if you want to do all these things, first you have to make your own welding standards. You have to optimize the parameters, and with that optimized parameters only, you have to carry out these kinds of welding. That is how to create defect and how to get it in a continuously and periodical manner. That is a little challenging task. Okay, that is a little challenging task. Only if you know that particular reasons, and in that reasons, whatever you can able to replicate it, then only that continuous defect monitoring will be possible in the case of welding operations. So you can see I have shown you this is the previous one. What all things you have seen, they all are for GMAW pulse process. Okay, pulse to spray process. Okay, where you can observe your peak current, your shoulder current, and your background current. Similarly, in the case of voltages also. Now, when I am changing that process from GMAW-P to the short circuit, you can see the waveform is changing. Okay, so these all waveforms are taken. This you can see all the lines, graphs, etc. are extremely smooth over here. Wherever in this case they are not as smooth as like here. The difference is because of my sampling frequency. These figures are obtained for a sensor which is having a sampling frequency of 1 lakh samples per second. Whereas the previous one all are recorded for a sampling frequency of 8,000 samples per second. This particular system where 1 lakh sampling frequency is shown over here, that is developed by a German professor called Reifel. He died on the last week. So last week he expired. He was a very pioneer in developing these kinds of welding signature units. And in the name of Analysator Hannover, the Hannover University where he worked, he developed that system. The other one that all are commercial arc loggers which we used, and from the arc loggers we developed using our own codes to use it. So this Reifel, he has done a lot of work in the case of weld with respect to power source manufacturing, with respect to electrode characterization and defect conditions. So many industries are using his techniques or his ideas for finding fault detection in their plants. So this is another one called PulseMIC, and the bottom one has his technique, what he has developed called probability density distributions. I am not going to that part. You can see the signatures are changing when each and every process is changing. This is for forced arc. Okay, these are for some other variants of the power sources. Cold arc, RMD process, RMD Miller process, surface tension process. So each and every process will have its own current and voltage characteristics. Why? Because these all processes are developed to cater specific needs of industries. Okay, now this is the part. This is with respect to the signal collection part. So sensors and signal collections, I have given you an overview. Now, once you got the signals or sensors, what we will do next? So that is what I am going to see further. So in the welding signature processing, first you have to get the current and voltage, or whatever the sensory part, you can collect the information. Data is acquired, data is converted from analog to digital, and then the next part is that you have to extract the features from the signature either in time, frequency, or in wavelet domains. Then there is another part is there called feature reduction techniques. In my first slide, it was there. I didn't explain that over there. I'll explain you in another slide. Then you have to select what all features has to be given to the machine for training and testing part. So that will give you a tested output. Using that, you can develop your own systems, how to implement it. That all things you can discuss. So once you got the time series data, okay, what you have to do is that you have to segment it, or using the window function, you have to divide it. That is a same for the same experiment. Minimum I should have a 50 data sets are required. Minimum condition only I am talking. Minimum 50 is required. More hundreds or thousands if you have, that is very good. Okay, so minimum condition is 50 is required. So you have to segment it. So from each segment, you have to extract the features. So features means you can, from if you segment it like that, you can see now what is the mean, what is the mode, what is the maximum, what is the minimum, what is the skewness, what is the kurtosis. Like this, you can get statistical features. Many other techniques are also there. I'm not going to detail. I'm just giving you an overview only. So from this, you can extract the features in the time series, and the corresponding condition is also known to you. You can enter that. Okay. You can see over here. Now, this is a typical experiment which is done, and these are called features. And sample one is a windowed or a segmented function which we are taking an experiment of burn through. Okay. So for this particular case, we know what is the time that is required to pass the pass my torch on that particular area where the intended defect has to come. And I keep buffer from both the sides, and I say that this is my sampling frequency or this is my sampling seconds for a particular condition. That's the way the sampling is done, and I have made that into each classes, and these are the features which I am extracting. These are called statistical features. Other kinds of features are also available. I'm not going to its part. So mean, standard error, median, mode, deviation. These all features you can easily extract from a signal by using Excel itself. Okay, Excel itself, these features are available. You can easily extract it. Okay, you need to install some toolboxes into the Excel. Okay, it is already available in the Excel, not any external toolkit. Okay, statistical toolkit you need to enable in the Excel, then you can extract these features in the Excel itself. So for various conditions, okay, for various segmentation is done, and condition wise also I have did. Okay, this is how I am preparing my data to be fed for a machine learning algorithm. Now this is about the statistical features. Now another one kind of feature extraction that is called frequency domain. Now this is the typical time domain analysis. What is the peculiarity of this time domain analysis is that this is the amplitude in the case of the time series. Okay, so if I can, this comprises of many sinusoidal signals. Okay, this signal, this waveform will have different sinusoidal signals. I can decompose this into many sinusoidal signals as shown like this. The peculiarity of the sinusoidal signal is that each sinusoidal signal will have only one peak. Okay, it will have only one peak shown like this. So sinusoidal signals have distinct unique frequency, and arbitrary signal does not have a unique frequency. You can decompose that into many sinusoidal signals with different frequencies, each with different magnitude and phase. So this is a typical one signature of 16 point that I am converting of 16 signals of 1 point. This is what you are doing in the frequency analysis, and the tool normally which we use to convert this, that is called fast Fourier transforms, FFT. Okay, the implementation, or it's called discrete Fourier transforms. So this is how you are, again the segmentation has to done. Okay, you can convert that into the frequency domain, and again from the frequency domain you can extract the features. Okay, you can extract the features either with respect to statistical or with respect to certain frequency components. You can able to extract from the frequency domain. Now how will you select? There is a correlation between sensor and frequency values are there. That is, if you know that you have your frequency, there will be up to 4000 Hz frequency will exist in your data set. If you know that your sensor or your sampling frequency should be double of it, 8K. Or in another way, if I have an 8K sampling frequency, I can get maximum frequency components up to 4000. So initially you can extend up to 4000 and you can window it, and later part you can narrow it down, because you can see over here when I did take it for a welding beyond 400 or 500, there is no active frequency components are available. So I can limit my search space to a lower one. Okay, enlarge it, and from this either statistical or with respect to certain smaller quantities of frequency values, say something like 0.4 or 0.1 hertz or 0.2 hertz, I can get some values, and that I can directly take it as a feature, or from that again I can calculate the statistical part and can compare it. So this is the second type of feature extraction normally will be done in any signals whatever you are obtaining. The third type is that here in the frequency I am not talking anything about the time. So a time localized frequency, if you want to observe, okay, if you want to obtain, that is also possible. They are called wavelets. Wavelets are nothing but they are called as energy pockets. And there is a mother wavelet is available and child wavelets are also available. So you can see Haar wavelet. Haar wavelet has only one mother wavelet. No child wavelets are available for Haar. It is a symmetry wavelet. Then you can see coefficient wavelet. So this is a mother wavelet in which COIF 1, 2, 3, 4. These are all are called child wavelets. That is, if you want to define the wavelets, there are two parameters are there. One is called shape function and next is called scale function. So shape and scale basically determines the shape of your wavelet. You can see every case, this is almost looks similar, but when you are changing the shape function and your scale function, you can see the wavelet shape is going to change. So Haar is a symmetry wavelet I have shown over here. So from your signal, you can decompose, you can obtain the wavelets. Okay, you can obtain the wavelets. You can see to it which wavelet to which level of decomposition your signature is matching. That you can perform. So decomposition is nothing but this is my signal. So signal is dividing into approximate coefficients and level 1 detailed coefficients. Okay, if I add this detailed coefficients plus approximate coefficient, I will get back my original signal. So this level 1 will again, I will split into approximate and level 2 detailed coefficients. Likewise, I will go to last. That is nothing but initially if I am having 40,000 feature points are available in the level 1 decomposition, it will normally reduce to a near half value, or it reduced to half value, whereas all other wavelets, equations and mathematics are available. So accordingly, the number of data points will get reduced. So that is how the decomposition is performed. Now when wavelet, which wavelet to apply? Okay, which level of decomposition will give you a better output, that you can take it out, and then you have the features. So these features, now you either it will be in terms of normally it will in form of Excel, you can employ it, and that can be fed into any of the machine learning algorithms. I hope I am audible and there's no issues here.
Yes, sir, you are audible. Please continue.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So now what happens is that sometimes when I'm having more number of features, it is not possible for me to get useful information out of it. Or sometimes due to the overwhelming data, I may not be get the intended information. So what I can do is that I can reduce this feature sets. So that is normally done in the case of machine learning, a terminology called feature reduction. That is, I told you in the statistical case, there are 12 features are there. All the 12 features are not necessary for me to get the information. So sometimes 3 or 4 or sometimes 5 or 6 is required. So that if you want to reduce it, that technology that is called feature reduction technique. And feature reduction technique, normally we will be performing with the help of a PCA called principal component analysis. And principal component analysis, you can set a value. That is, either you can say that I need 2 features, 3, 4, like that you can set and you can do the feature reduction, or you can say the variance, the included variance, 90% included variance, 99% included variance. Okay, so that terms I need to consider. So normal cutoff, we will keep it as 99%. So variance up to 99% we will include in the study. Rather than that, we can eliminate off. So that's the way you can reduce the feature sets from 12 to 2 or 3, sometimes from 400 to 10 or 12. Likewise, you can reduce your feature sets. So that technology is also available in the case of machine learning algorithms. Now, once all this is done, initially I have told about the sensor, then I have told about the signal processing or the extraction of features. Once this is done, you can feed that into the machine learning algorithms. So this is a typical example where 99% of variance is included. So for, you can see over here up to 99 means 1 point greater than 1 point I have to include in my analysis. Beyond that, from feature 7 to 13 is removed off. Here also you can see whatever is greater than 1 is taken into account, rest has been removed off. So this is called as the feature reduction techniques using principal component analysis. So here the variance is taken as the feature to make a decision. Variance greater than 99% we normally include for our analysis. Yeah. So initially part I have talked about sensor, then I talked about the data, the types of features you can extract from the data. Then once that is ready, you can feed that into the machine learning algorithm. So machine learning algorithm, normally whatever the data you are entering, it will divide the data. Either you have to divide the data or the system will its own divide the data. There is a terminology is there called k-fold cross validation. Okay, k-fold cross validation. So you can give 5-fold or 10-fold cross validation. It is up to you. Okay, normally we used to give 10-fold cross validation. So if I give 10-fold cross validation, what it will do is that the entire set of data, whatever I am giving, it will randomly classify into 10 folds. Okay, 10 subfolds. The entire data is subdivided into 10 folds. And from each fold, 80% of the data will be used for training and 20% of the data will be used for testing. Okay, so that is what is happening in the case of machine learning. So initially you have the training set data is there. So that is a raw data with labels. So learning algorithm will learn, it will label it. That is a particular mean, a particular mode, a particular standard deviation. If it comes, that is a good well. Variation in that will classify it as burn through. Variation in that, it will classify as porosity. Likewise, it will label it. Once the labeling is over, it will try to test. Okay, it will try to test your data and it will give you the features. It will give you that whether it is classified properly or whether it is classified wrongly. So which algorithm which will gives you a maximum classification condition, that you can choose it for your further analysis. So the pre-processing part of it, you have feature extraction, feature selection, dimensionality reduction, and sampling. Here, your learning part, you will have model selection, cross-validation, performance metrics, and parameter optimization. Yeah. So I'll just quickly go through some of the good algorithms. So the first one, that is called, okay. So CART algorithm that will classify that will take your data in the previous conditions as I told you earlier. Okay, it will try to train and it will try to test you and it will give you a classification accuracy also. Okay, so this is done for our, and these are the types of trees which are available in the case of CART under MATLAB called simple, median, and complex. The number of split is 4, 20, and 100. And there are some splitting criterions are available. That it's a tree means you will have a branch, you will have a leaf, etc. So that's the way the splitting is done with the help of Gini diversity index, Towing rule, or maximum deviance reduction criterion. By default, it will be Gini diversity index. If you want to do this analysis, you have to change that in the settings. So now once you did an analysis by using a machine learning, you will get a tree structure like this. So tree structure you can see on the top. Now as per this analysis, you can give median gives me a better information to classify this particular well. And you can see if the median is less than 39.5, you can go on this branch. Okay, you can go on this branch. And if it is higher than or equal to 39.5, you can go on this branch. When it is going on this branch, okay, there is another check is the range. If the range is lesser than 394.5, you can classify that weld as good weld. If the range is greater than or equal to 394, it is classifying it as porosity. Okay, and even when there is a case of median is lesser also, direct range value and another range is also there for the case of good weld with respect to your burn through. Okay, so burn through also it is showing. So with respect to your range or the higher values, comparing with your mean, you can get the burn through. And if the mean is not that value, it is supposed to be the good well. That is the range of getting a good well and burn through here is very narrow. Okay, there is a chance of burn through well can be misclassified as good well easily. That information you can easily get it from these decision trees. And you will get a code like this by using if then else condition. Okay, and these codes once you are getting, you can easily burn it on a chip and further algorithms you are able to develop. So decision trees are one of the best and popular machine learning algorithms which is used across the globe. And also this algorithm is also used for a feature reduction criterion also. Since here only now you can see, I need the information called median, range, and mean. These three informations are only needed for me to make my machine learning. As the features are reducing, okay, my system is able to predict in a faster manner. So that way, some researchers has been used this decision tree for reducing the features, and this reduced features they have trained and tested for some other algorithms also. So the next algorithm, that's a simple algorithm called discriminant analysis. There are two types of discriminants are there, linear discriminants and quadratic discriminants. Okay, so this is nothing but linear discriminant. By using the linear lines, they are trying to classify the data. Now you can see over here, this is porosity. This is taken only for two features. Okay, like this, many features are available. Each feature, this may not be the case, it will differ. Now, between a standard error and mean plot is shown for the case of LDA. You can see the blue color indicates as porosity. So all the porosities are clustered in one together, and it is you can separable it easily with the help of a line. Whereas in the case of, as I told you with respect to the previous condition, burn through and good well, you can see there are instances are there where they are merged together. That is, this is the possible linear line which I can draw to differentiate my good well and burn through. Now what happens is that this red data, which is supposed to be my good well, okay, which is supposed to be by good well, but Now this will interpret as burn through, and this will gives me misclassification value. So this is also misclassification, and you can see many of the burn through data is falling into the Goodwell situation. Here many misclassifications are going to happen. So this is how LDA works. The line is in a linear function. So in order to reduce this, reduce the misclassification rate, I can go for a curvilinear approach. That is nothing but my quadratic discriminant analysis. When I go for quadratic discriminant analysis, what happens is that this all will take as now one class. These all are misclassified instances. Again, you can see one or two misclassified instances here. Again, many misclassified instances are there. So when many misclassified instances like this are happening, the classification accuracy of that particular algorithm will reduce. So next kind of a popular algorithm, that is called support vector machine, where they will use hyperplanes. They will draw hyperplanes to classify or to classify that into various categories. You can see this is a hyperplane which is constructed, that is called the separating plane, and from that I am drawing two lines to touch the boundary of my feature sets. Where you can see over here, in this case, there is a term is there called margin. So this SVM tries to maximize this margin. Okay, if maximize, you are able to maximum margin you are able to get in any particular model of SVM, that will be taken as the best SVM classifier for that particular case. And one more information related to SVM. In the case of all other algorithms, they will try to classify the three sets as three itself, whereas in the case of SVM, only two data sets can be compared at the same time. And you will have linear SVM, quadratic, cubic, fine Gaussian, medium Gaussian, and coarse Gaussian SVMs are available in the case of MATLAB machine learning toolbox. So you can see this is our cases. Okay, we have burn through, and green is marked is our support vector, and the blue is our porosity. So between blue and this, you can see the two feature sets. It is trying to classify. This is the hyperplane constructed, and you can see now this is touching over here. So this is the maximum margin which I can draw in between to separate burn through and porosity defects as two classes like this. The next algorithm, this is basically a clustering algorithm, k nearest neighbor. So what it will do is that if I put a point like this, whether from this point to this point, or this to this, or to this to this, which is having the minimum Euclidean distance, that will be calculating, and based on that, the further classifications it will be done. Again, sub-classifications are available: fine KNN, median, coarse, cosine, cubic, weighted, etc. So this in 2 marks, you can see that are basically my Courette class. So to my Courette class, the Euclidean distance, the minimum distance, whatever is having the minimum distance, that is highlighted, that red over my red dot, there is a circle is drawn. So these all are the data points as per my KNN, which is having a lowest distance, lowest Euclidean distance is available. So that is indicated like this in the case of KNN algorithm also. This is what I told you. This is one of the powerful algorithms, not popular, powerful algorithms in the case of machine learning to reduce your bias and variance. Okay, these two are the normal issues which will come in the case of data analysis, bias and variance. So if I want to reduce the bias, I can go for boosting algorithm. If I want to reduce my variance, I can go for bagging algorithm. So bagging algorithm, you can see my original data set, that will be subdivided into small segmental data sets. And for each segmental data sets, the second level algorithm will be applied, and from the second level algorithm, the results will be aggregated. Okay, so that is what is shown over here. So similarly, that will happen in the case of boosting algorithms also. The boosting algorithm normally used, that is called ADA boost. We call it as ADA boost. Okay, so ensemble, so boosted trees are there, bagged trees are there, subspace discriminant is there, subspace KNN is there, RUS boosted trees are there. These are some kind of ensemble algorithms which are there in the case of which are there in the MATLAB environment. Okay, then once you got these informations, this is also another way of improving my accuracies. That is called fusion. So fusing my signature information. That is, fusing means I had a current signature, I had a voltage signature. I can fuse that together. I can take both simultaneously and can run an analysis and see what is happening. So that is called feature level fusion. Sometimes sensor level fusion is possible. That is in the case of welding. If I say I had current sensor, I had voltage sensor. So P, there's another term is called power. So P equals V into I. So sensor level itself, I am trying to fuse, I am trying to get another value. For that, I can get the feature. So that is called sensor level fusion. The third one is that from the output, from the classifier outputs, I can able to fuse together. So that is called decision level fusion. So this is another approach which is there in the case of machine learning. Okay. So this is also possible to test in the case of machine learning environment. Now, once you have fed everything into the system, as I told you, it will test, it will train, and finally you will get a matrix like this, as is shown like this. Okay. So this, if you carefully see this matrix, the diagonal elements of this particular matrix, called as confusion matrix, gives the information of correctly classified instances. After training, after testing, okay, I am getting this output, gives the information that how good my machine learning model is. Say decision tree, I have plenty of trees are available. One particular tree, okay, for my one application, how it gives me a better classification. So the diagonal elements, if you are seeing, they are correctly classified instances. For example, burn through out of my 52 samples, 40 has correctly classified. There are 52 samples for Goodwell, okay, out of which 51 is classified as correctly. And I had 52 porosity conditions where all the 52 are classified correctly as porosity itself. There is a one condition of Goodwell, okay, this is a Goodwell, okay, this is supposed to be a Goodwell, but the Goodwell is misinterpreted as burn through here in this condition. Here this is a condition of burn through where 11 burn through defects, the system or that machine learning algorithm has classified that as Goodwell. And here the burn through is classified as porosity for one instant. But here if you can see over here, there are 11 defect which is misinterpreted as good, okay, which may not be good in certain sections or certain areas. So there is a first or predominant term is there, that is called classification efficiency or accuracy. The summation of diagonal elements divided by the summation of this entire matrix, you will get the classification efficiency. 1 minus classification efficiency, you will get the misclassification rate. And in order to ensure that your algorithm is perfect enough, you can calculate the terms like specificity, precision, ROC, kappa statistics, etc. from this analysis to ensure or to nullify these kinds of issues. So major term which normally takes in the case or to take to say that this algorithm is good for particular signal analysis is with respect to the classification efficiency itself. These are secondary terms which you can use it for further operations. I am not showing you any further results. Results are available all in the published works. You can go through it. So now what we have did is that we have applied all this. We have developed our own conditions for welding, only burn through and porosity. Plenty of other options are also available. Using for that, we have find that a particular algorithm is the best, and we have stopped my work over there. And using that, further we can process or some process to develop a real-time weld quality system. So such systems in the market are very few, and its accuracies are not also up to the level. Some systems from Australia was the which can be used for these kinds of purposes. So beyond that, up to signal processing and signal processing only, the systems are available. So there is a full future scope is there for developing these kinds of online monitoring systems. Now the boards, chips, all are easily available. Cost is also less. Definitely, we can try for developing such systems. But for developing such systems from this part to the next level, you requires a good knowledge of electronics is also required to develop the further parts in this. This is a simple case study application what I have shown you in the case of welding alone. There is a group of people in Amrita. We are working. We have a trust area group called as Integrated Machine Health Monitoring. And our research team includes K. Ramendran sir, Ramesh Kumar sir, Sai Murugan sir, Kishoma sir, and myself. Okay, so we have the algorithms like, we have the sensors like accelerometers are there. We have piezoelectric PZT PZT systems, PZT acoustic sensors are available. Microphones are available. Okay, we are planning to get IRT also soon, and some other sensing and some other systems are also available. So we are working basically with respect to the health monitoring of machines. Okay, so monitoring of machine health parameters, acoustic, vibrations, current, sound, and voltage, etc. So some of the equipments. This experiment setup for weld defect detection is shown here. It's not our Amrita equipment. It is in Welding Research Institute, BHEL, Trichy. The other machines and equipments, whatever we have shown there, is available with us. So far, we have almost good amount of research we are done. So completed nearly 1 crore worth of sponsored project. Intelligent System Research Lab is established for development of intelligent machines. Produced nearly more than 10 doctoral students. Published nearly more than 100 Scopus Index journal papers. So this is what the information which I tried to convey. I have condensed it due to the shortage of time. So as a whole nutshell only, I tried to explain to you. So I hope it's clear.